Hello people of the world, and welcome to today's episode of Coffee Chats with Jax. Something that's been on my mind and heart a lot lately that feels like a really vulnerable thing for me to talk about, but it's something that's really real. And I didn't want to talk about it in a video because it felt too vulnerable and too close, but the whole point of these videos is to talk about the hard stuff. So I want to let you guys in on what's going on in my life faith-wise. If you've been following me for however long, or if you have read my first book or watched some of my older videos, you'll know that I've had a bit of a faith journey. You see, growing up, I would have considered myself a Christian the same way I would have considered myself an American. Like, it didn't really mean much to me. But when I hit 19, I had a really big come to Jesus moment for myself, and it became the biggest, most important part of my life for a long time. I don't have time to explain everything that has happened right now. I'm actually considering making a book in the future about this. But I would just like to say that spiritual trauma, church trauma, that stuff's really real, because when something bad happens to you in that realm, it feels like it's assaulting something really personal. It's like assaulting your spirit, like the closest part of your soul there could be. And for the longest time, I was really good at separating like negative church, Christianity, culture stuff from who God is. But this past year, it's gotten really hard for me to do that. And I'm not making this video because I want someone out there to preach to me. That's actually the last thing that I want, because for some reason lately, church language and Christian lingo has been really triggering for me. And it's hard for me to make this video because I feel kind of ashamed of that. It used to be my whole world, my whole life. And last year is what I called my Deconstruction Year, where I was figuring out what I believed and why, and I was pulling everything that I knew apart because it was my first time entering into the conversation of faith and sexuality, and pulling apart these verses that seemed so sturdy for so long, and finding out that I don't know everything. And one thing that I was really scared of while I was doing that, and I actually voiced that to a friend, was that I was scared of losing my faith. Like, I was scared of losing that part of my life. This year has been me trying to figure out how to put the pieces back together. That, but also just being okay with the pieces being on the floor and not knowing what to do with them. And it's been hard. I've heard more stories about church hurt over the past couple of years that I have in my life, and it breaks my heart, and I hate to say that my story is in the midst of that, and like I said, I don't have time to get into that in this video, but just trust me when I say there's some church trauma in my life. But I don't really want to pick a side. I'm trying to figure out what's true and genuine to me. Right now, the most true thing that I can think of when I think of faith and spirituality is something that my best friend told me about how she sees God like a big puzzle. And each of us has our own puzzle piece, and those pieces represent how we experience God. Whether that's shaped through culture or background or religion or anything. Like, our stories shape our relationship to God or the universe or the higher being or whatever you want to call this big thing. And when we meet other people who have different puzzle pieces, who have a completely different experience with God, we get to learn a whole other side of who God is. And sometimes other people's pieces fit neatly next to ours, and sometimes they don't. But the more people we meet and the more stories we hear, we get to see a clearer picture of who God is. My best friend told me that when I was having my first big faith crisis situation. She told me that, and I cried, and I wrote it in my journal, and then I quoted her with it in both of my books, because it really is important to me. I think everybody has their own version of who God is to them, whether they call that God or the universe or whatnot. And I've been learning a lot more about what that looks like outside of just my 2x4 box, Western culture, America, evangelical Christianity, because it's so much more than that. And I'm so beyond thankful to be, I guess, knocked off my high horse in that way, because I used to sit up and want to preach and teach, and in the past 2 years has showed me that I don't know what I thought I knew. And a lot of that's really heartbreaking, but I'm not at the end of my journey yet. And so this video doesn't really have a conclusion other than the fact that this is something that's real to me, and I've made it a point to be vulnerable and honest and real in these videos. And this is something we haven't talked about in a while. Everybody's faith journey, spirituality journey, it's really different and special and sacred to who they are. And I'm struggling with mine right now. And I'm trying to find answers. I'm trying to figure out how to put these pieces back together in a way. And talking about it a lot in therapy, which has been a whole thing. I'm not trying to teach or give advice or whatnot in this video. This is just me letting you know where I'm at. And if anyone out there is also struggling with their faith, whether it's from coming out, maybe it's a faith and sexuality thing, maybe it's just a faith thing, maybe you were hurt by the church in some other way, or maybe you're just trying to figure out what life means. What I have found that has been the most helpful is that I think God's more in the questions than in the answers. But sometimes that feels scary, and that's okay. So I'm learning how to be okay and to sit in that tension and trusting that what I need to know and need to learn is going to come and it's going to happen. And I'm honored to get to share that journey with you guys. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting me. If you'd like to know more about my journey and my story with faith stuff or with sexuality stuff or any and all of these things, then go check out my book, Finding Home. You can find that in a link in the description box below, or go to jackiegtv.com. Be honored if you guys read my book. Thank you so much for following me and paying attention and caring about what I have to say and letting me have this space to use my voice and be vulnerable and talk about things that I believe really matter. Things that I think we all think and feel and work through, but sometimes we don't feel the ability to speak up about it. So I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.